Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for our, hold on just a second, I have something else to pull up here, for our webinar, Tips for New VR Salesforce Users. My name is Jill, and I'm the Training and Education Manager here at Vertical Response. And today I am going to take you through some of the things that might be a little mysterious for people when they're using Salesforce for the first time. I do have a deck, which is what I forgot to put up, and I'm going to go through this a little bit, but for the most part this webinar is just going to be me showing you where to set some things up for your Salesforce account so that you can see everything you're supposed to be seeing when you're using your vertical response installation. Just a couple things. This webinar will be about 30 minutes long. At the end there will be time for Q&A. So if you do think of some questions along the way, go ahead and type those into the box that you see in your GoToWebinar window, and I'll be happy to answer as many of those questions as I can at the end of the demo. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, this is what we're going to go over today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the installation of Vertical Response in your Salesforce app. I'm going to talk about how to see the VR email history on your leads and contacts. That's one of the prime things that doesn't get installed, and so we're going to go over that. I'm going to talk about the email opt-out field. I'm going to talk about the campaign list option, campaign member status, and then there'll be Q&A. And before I get to Q&A, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that can cause your list to be zero, which is something that happens a lot for new users as well. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into the webinar. So first of all, just a couple tips about the installation. You do have to be a Salesforce admin to do an install into Salesforce, so if that isn't you and you haven't installed it yet, you do need to talk to whoever your admin is. Our application is on the App Exchange. I'm thinking most of you probably already have it, but we're just going to go through this really quick. If you're using Group Edition, there is a specific version that you need to install. It's slightly different from the other version. The main difference is that there aren't dashboards and Group Edition doesn't have campaigns. For the most part though, the information that we're going to look at today is applicable to whatever version you're using. It is free to set up Vertical Response in your Salesforce accounts. You do not need to pay anything up front to test it out. And it is just a couple of steps to go through to install it into Salesforce. So it just takes a couple minutes for the actual installation. One of the things during the installation process is adding the VR email history custom object for both the leads and the contacts in your Salesforce account. This, during the installation process, can be done at the time of install or it can be done later. And this is where I think we run into some problems, because if the admin doesn't install it at this point, when you go to use your VR account in Salesforce, you're not going to see all of the information that you need to see once your email's gone out if you don't have the custom object set up. So the first thing that I'm going to demo for you today is how to set up the custom object for both your contacts and your leads. So let me grab my account here. And so the easiest way to do this, if you're anywhere in the account, is to go into Setup and then go to App Setup and then Customize, and you're going to be able to set up things for your leads and your contacts here. If you happen to be on leads and contacts, there's an easier way to get here, but this way you don't have to be anywhere, or you can be anywhere, you don't have to be somewhere specific to access this information. So the first one we're going to look at here is leads. We're going to go to Page Layout and click on that, and I'm going to edit my lead layout page. So what I'm going to do is add the custom object for the VR email history for leads. This is going to be under Related Lists, and you'll see up here at the top it says VR email history, and I need to add this down here so it shows up on my lead when I'm looking at it in Salesforce. You can put this wherever you want. I use this account for demoing our SalesForce integration, and I like to have my VR email history in between activity history and campaign history. So that's where I'm going to put it. But you can drag this around and put it anywhere. See how my mouse changes? You can move it wherever you want it to be on your page. So it's up to you where you want to see it. Now, once you see your VR email history on here, there's a couple of things that you're going to want to add so that you get the most out of the information that we're providing for you. So if you click on this little icon that looks like a wrench on the VR email history, this is going to bring up a list of the properties that you can add to it. And there are certain ones that we would generally recommend that you add to your custom object here. So you can do bounced, clicked. So this is all going to be related to your email statistics. So you're going to want to pull over everything related to your email statistics that's important for you to see in SalesForce. So email name, bounced, clicked. Created date might be something that's important for you. Mail date might also be important. One of those is probably more important than the other for you, so that's up to you which one you want to use. Opened and unsubscribed. And again, you can use any of the information that's over here. One of the things that you might find particularly useful, depending on how people are using SalesForce, is to include the clicked links. So now when people are looking at this data in the leads and contacts in SalesForce, they can even see which links were clicked in the email. So it's up to you how much information you want in here, but we would definitely recommend that you have your email name, which comes over automatically, mail date, sent. Did I get sent in there? Sent. Bounced, opened, clicked, and unsubscribed. And then any other information that you might want to include, you can do that. Click OK once you have it set up. Once everything is set up on this page the way you want it to be, you need to save it. And the save is in the top left-hand corner. This is not where I would normally go to save something, so I don't find this very intuitive. So I usually point this out that the save's in the top left. So if you click save, you're going to save the information for your leads. So now if we go over here and take a look at the leads, take a look at this one. I have VR email history in between activity history and campaign history with all the information that I added in there. So our contacts are also missing it. We can take a look at a contact over here. And we have activity history, campaign history, but there's no VR email history on this one. So again, to add this, the easiest way is to go up here. If you happen to be on your contact page, you can edit the layout here. If you're not, you can go to the top up here and to set up like I did for the leads. So this is the same as setting it up for the leads, except right now we're going to be doing the contacts instead. So again, we're going to go to related lists. Again, we can see the VR email history is in here, so we're going to drag it down here so we can see that information. Again, I like it to be in between activity history and campaign history for my own demo purposes, so that's where I'm putting it. But you can put it wherever you want. And this isn't written in stone, so once you have it set up, if you find that this is something that it's not in a place that's easy for you to get to, you can always come back in here and change where it is. I'm going to click on the little wrench, and again, I'm going to add some of this information over here. Like I did for our leads. And again, once everything is set up the way you want it, go ahead and click OK. That's going to save the related list information. So this is what data I'm going to see for my VR email history. Once I'm done setting up the page, I'm going to click Save, and that's going to save my contact layout page. And so now my contact has the VR email history in there, and I can take a look at all this information as I need to on my contacts. So let's go back to our presentation here and talk about campaigns. So not all accounts have a campaign module. It depends on the version that you have. You just need to make sure that it's something that's part of your Salesforce org before you can try to use it. In order for campaigns to work, you do need to be a marketing user, and there are some leads that need to be visible when you're looking at the campaign detail page, and that would be total leads, total contacts, and then the description. Generally they're there, but again, if for some reason you're not seeing this information, these are some of the things that you need to take a look at. So let's go back into the Salesforce account and take a look at where we can find this. So if we go under Setup, and then we go to Personal Setup, and then My Personal Information, and then Personal Information, this is where you can find the marketing user information. This little box has to be checked in order for you to be able to use the campaign. And in order to change it, just click Edit, and then you just click it. And when you're looking at your Salesforce account, this is where you're going to see campaigns. It'll be a tab up here. When you're creating lists using the VR integration, you have the option of using our query tool to create a list or a campaign from Salesforce. So that's why it's important, if you have campaigns available, that you can access that information when you're using the vertical response integration. Now if we go to Setup, and we go to App Setup and then Customize, and this time we're going to go to Campaigns and then Page Layouts. This is where you're going to see the information that I listed before that you need. So you need to see total leads, total contacts, and description, which should be built in here. Description is down here. If you don't see them, it would be under the fields up here, and you can drag them down here. So if we look, they're kind of grayed out up at the top, but this is where total contacts is. You would just drag it down into the campaign detail area, and then you'd be able to see that information. So again, it's usually set up, but if you're having an issue seeing campaigns as an option and you know you have it active in your account, this is something that you should check as well. So the next thing that we're going to talk about here is campaign member status. So I'm going to save the changes. I don't think I made any changes, but so let's go take a look at campaigns. So you should, at this point now, it should be all set up and ready for me to be able to see. There's a couple of things that you need to do with your campaigns in order for you to be able to use them as a mailing list. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a new campaign here. So first of all, in order for vertical response to see your campaign and use it as a list, this little active box needs to be checked. It has to be an active campaign for us to see it. So just make sure you check that, and then we're going to be able to use it. You can set this up however you want. This is going to be an email, so I'm going to select email. And I'm going to say completed, because that takes a little while. So here's my campaign set up. Now in order to see the specific information on your leads and contacts about how people have responded to your email. So for example, if they open or click or bounce, any of that information under campaign history, you need to set up your campaign to show that data. So in order to do that, you need to go to Advanced Setup. So once you've created your campaign, click Advanced Setup. And now we're going to add some member status values. These are already set up in here by default. And now I'm going to edit, and I'm going to add some more fields in here. So I'm going to add, opened, and I'm going to have it be responded, clicked, bounced, and unsubscribed. So there's a couple things here. First of all, you need to set up the status exactly as I've done it here. So you need to have the first letter be capitalized, and then it ends in ED, opened, clicked, bounced, and unsubscribed. And it has to have the capital letters at the beginning. Otherwise, this isn't going to work. So Salesforce is very particular about how your member status values are set up. So make sure they look like this in order for them to work. And where you're going to see this is once your email's been sent out, when you come into the campaign history area, it's here under status and then responded. So campaign history is going to show you the last action that your recipients took in order for them to show up in here. So if they open the email, you're going to see opened, and then this little responded box will be checked. If what they did after they opened it is clicked on a link, the only thing you're going to see here is clicked, because there can only be one status under the campaign history. So it'll say clicked. Obviously, you'll know they opened it in order to click on anything, but that's what you're going to see here. And if we go back to our slide presentation here, can go to the next one here. So again, you need to have your campaign set to active for vertical response to see it. And to see all of the campaign history, it needs to be set up with the member status. Now, some of the things that happen once you've done your installation into your vertical response account and you start to pull a list especially using the query tool, sometimes you'll get a list size that's 0, even though you know you have some contacts. So there's a couple of things that we're going to take a look at here to make sure that your list comes back with actual numbers in it instead of coming back saying there isn't any leads or contacts that fall into your query. So a couple of things, email opt-out box, I'm going to show you how to add that for your leads and contacts. Custom fields are sometimes an issue. If you have more than one account, sometimes the cookies get confused and you're not seeing the right information. And then the email field. So we're going to talk about all of these. And let me pull up my Salesforce account here. So first of all, we're going to talk about the email opt-out field. This is a standard field. It is not a custom field. So if we go again to the setup area and go to app setup and leads, I'm going to do page layout. So we're going back to the page layout where we were a little bit earlier. When you're looking at your leads, the email opt-out box is going to be at the top up here in the lead detail section. Same with your contacts. It's in this lead detail section. These are fields that vertical response uses for pulling your list when you set up a query. Everything in this lead detail section. So under fields, we're just going to look in here and we'll see up here email opt-out. So all you have to do is grab it and then pull it down here and put it wherever it is that you want it to go. This is just indicating that it's there, the little check mark. But if somebody unsubscribes, the email opt-out box will be checked, and our system is actually looking at that information. So let's go ahead and save this with the email opt-out box. And let's go back to our lead. So here's our lead. Here's the email opt-out box. For this guy, it's not checked. So he's mailable. If you're mailing through your Salesforce account and somebody unsubscribes, email opt-out will be checked, which means they've unsubscribed and they're no longer mailable. When vertical response is pulling your mailing lists, we're looking at this field on both your leads and your contacts. If this field is not exposed, you're going to get a list size of 0 because the search is going to stop, because we are verifying this information. So you need to make sure that the email opt-out field is visible on both your leads and your contacts. You'll get an error if it's not, but sometimes people don't see it. Here's the email opt-out box on my contact. So when I go to run the report now, it will work because our system's going to be able to see if anyone is unsubscribed. Unsubscribing is really important. It's something that is required by law, and we take that pretty seriously. So the other thing related to, so again, that was a custom field, or I'm sorry, a standard field. You noticed I just dragged it from the list. You do not need to create a custom field for that. That isn't actually going to work because our system is looking for this specific field right here. The other thing that we're going to talk about is, let's see here. So also you need to make sure if you're creating a list using a campaign that you're allowed to send out your email. So let's go back here to setup, and we're going to go back to personal information, and there's personal information. Under the profile, this is a link. I'm an admin in here because this is my demo account. But in here, you need to make sure that you have standard object permissions set up. And this is usually normal, but occasionally somebody will have set something up and your particular profile in Salesforce won't be allowed to do something. So these standard object permissions, that's these guys right here, you need to be able to create, read, edit, and update all of these. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to update the information back into your Salesforce account. The other thing is that when you're creating your list, let's go back up here. When you go to run your list, if you're using a custom field and you're getting a list size of 0, you might want to try creating the list without your custom field. It could be something with the custom field itself. So if you have like a comma or an unusual character in your custom field, that can sometimes cause an issue. And so the best thing that you can do is go back a couple of steps. So let's go take a look at running a list here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Whoops. So if I go to create a new list here, using the query tool, you can add all kinds of parameters in here. These are all the standard fields that come with your Salesforce account plus your custom fields. So if you've added a lot of parameters to your query and you're coming back with a list size of 0, take it back a couple. Maybe do email address and first name and see what you pull in, and then start adding in another filter and see what you pull in, and you'll eventually see where the issue is. If your custom field has a strange character in it, that could also be a problem for our system to pull it in. We don't see those very well sometimes. Let me just check what else I was going to show you here. Oh, and the email field. So this is also another one that comes up when people are trying to run their list. Again, when you're creating your list, and we'll go take a look at the leads layout here. So as I said, when you're creating your list and you're using our query tool, our system's looking under the lead detail section to pull in the data. The email field that you have the email addresses in must be the standard email field that comes with Salesforce. You can of course set up a custom field for anything in Salesforce, but if your custom field contains the email address, our system won't necessarily see that as an email. It will see there's data and it will pull that information into the list, but it won't know that it's an email address. And so if you don't have any data in the email field, then that information won't get pulled into the mailing list. So you need to make sure when you're adding data to your Salesforce account that the email address is going into the email field that comes with the account, not a custom email address field. So the one other thing that I'm going to mention on your list size 0, and then I'll start doing some questions if you guys have any questions, is if you are pulling in a custom field when you're doing the query and you're mapping it to one of our standard fields, or you're using the same name. For example, the field name in vertical response for first name is first_name. If you're creating a custom field and you use the same field name, it isn't going to work either. So that's just a couple of things that can cause an issue with your list being 0 once you've set this up. Usually it's just a couple of little things that you need to tweak in your Salesforce account, and then everything should pull in just fine. If you do run into any issues along the way though, our support team is always more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. I'm going to bring up my last slide here, and then if you have any questions, I'll be happy to pull those in. We do have a help site, and it does have specific information for Salesforce, and actually I will show you that in just a second. We also have a blog. We have a blog for email marketing and marketing in general, just to help you. There's also a specific version for our Salesforce users. And we do have lots of free guides to help you get started using our system and email marketing in general. And those are on our website. The easiest way to get a guide is to go to verticalresponse.com and then click on the tab that says resources, and that's where you'll see where it says free marketing guides. A lot easier to remember than this big long URL that we have up here. Let me pull up the help site and then I will take your questions. So when you are, the easiest way to get to the help site, actually there's two ways. If you're in your Salesforce account, on the VR email tab, at the bottom are some resources, and the help site is in there. It says watch demos, but that's actually our help site, and it'll take you right to the Salesforce section. A lot of the things that I talked about today are here. So under installation, there is some information. So login errors, there's campaign member status, which I went over for you. Adding some customization, which was some of the things I talked about today, and then the installation. So this is all available for you. But you also have the option of also getting some help. So there's some videos and text tutorials here as well, just on using our email tools in your Salesforce account. So there is a specific area to get help with your Salesforce.